there is a big problem with coaches asking you to trust them because of the amount of pros that they've trained and the amount of players that they've coached, like in total as well, instead of coaches asking you to trust them because of the information that they're putting out or the data that they're putting out or the data that they've studied in addition to the people that they've trained. And I'm going to tell you why trusting coaches just because they've trained a whole bunch of, like, I don't know, NHLers in hockey's case, or a bunch of other areas, instead of getting deliberate results, getting intentional results. Those are the coaches that you want to go to, is the coaches who create those things for you and repeat that with a bunch of other players, and they create basically the same, if not very close to similar results as everyone else. And this is a plague, honestly, that takes up and riddens hockey and confuses a lot of players. And I'm just going to be talking in the background as I clean some things up. But basically, okay, here's just cutting straight to the point. Let's say you get a coach who has this whole laundry list of pros that they've trained, and they happen to make the NHL. It's like, okay, good. You got a lot of players who worked with you maybe for a little bit or maybe for a long time. It's never really specified. It's just like, oh yeah, this guy was in the NHL. Like, that's it. But basically, whether it's specified or not, they're like, oh yeah, the player was helped out in some way, shape, or form by the coach. You don't get any information on how long they were helped out with, or what specific changes they made, or the end result. You have to go look up all that stuff yourself. But basically, it's like, oh yeah, but that's like the claim that coaches make to sell you, is like, oh yeah, I trained all these like pro guys and they're in the big league, and that's all you need to know, is that I get them there. Well, do you really? Is it more that they went to you for a small results, like to get a small change, or did you carry their entire development path from like point A to point B, or like, the start point to the end point, when they like first strapped on some skates to when they're like, scoring 30, 40, 50 goals in the show? Like, is that what's happening? Is that the testimonial that they're getting? Or is it more so it's like, oh, they helped out in some small way, shape, or form? More often than not, it's like and it's more often than not that it's the small change that maybe helps them out in some way, shape, or form, and maybe doesn't. But you don't know because it's such a small change, right? But basically what I'm getting at, there is on top of this, there is a massive development problem with hockey. And it's this. On a podcast, Jason Yee was talking with a coach in player development who is specifically signed up for that. And I'm not going to mention the name of the team or the guy out of respect for him and to keep their privacy. But this was an NHL team. And I think the coach, I forget how long the coach worked with them. But basically, they had a development plan from the start of the season to the end of the season. And, pardon my dog for a second. And what happened was, so he mapped out their plan to change up, like, whether it was things tactically, whether it was things physically, you name it. It was all designed for their development. And basically, they had, like a 10-week time frame to execute on it. By the end of the 12 weeks, the quote that the coach said was, we didn't really make any inroads with them, which basically means they had a big fat zero on all of their development. And this is the same thing across, this happens the same way across all teams. You basically have 5 months or less to make a transformation with most of those pro teams. So what that means is that the players already have to be good to be in the NHL. They already have to be good to be in the NHL or to be at their pro team. They are not brought up from absolute zero to where they're at there. You don't see that transformation. It's more like they're from number 5 to number 1, or number 10 to number 5, or number 8 to number 4. Like, that's their development. But the trajectory of their transformation is super small. Now, let's take a guy like Marty St. Louis. And this was tracked over a few more years. So to give him credit, it was and to not compare apples to oranges in this case. Marty St. Louis' path was more like 5 to 8 years instead of like the 5 months that you typically see. But anyway, what happened with St. Louis is that, he got undrafted. He was basically like where the bottom 50th percentile was. But then he developed himself to become top of the league, like top 5 for his peak at the time. That is a much more better indicator of a transformation and results than someone who just goes to a pro, like a coach who's trained a bunch of pros and like makes a small change. Because the change from 50th to 10th, or the change from 45 to 9, or I don't know, 30 to 5, right? That's where St. Louis was. That's a much better indicator of a training system that works, because you don't get those transformations just randomly. You get it with intentional training. That's it. And you get it with highly specific work. That's really it. It's just as simple as that. Everything has to like line up in place for that result to happen. And if you're just, if you're like going to a coach for a very specific change, that is what you need to demand from them. That is what I'm creating with my players all the time. They are very happy with it because they literally feel and see the transformation for themselves. One guy in particular had 3 points his second to last year of junior hockey, getting scratched all the time, injured to hell and back. When he came to train with me, by the time next season started, he was a point per game, captain of his team, all-star, player of the month in his entire league for, I want to say, at least 3 times. Like, he was definitely like an all-star. And now he's off to the next phase. Shut up. Now he's off to his next phase of hockey. And I'm doing that for a guy in Quebec as well. Going to create that for people in Texas who just started out with me. And anyone else, like even if you're just your classic beer leaguer, this is what I do with you too. Take you from not being able to skate basically to, flying around your even if it's like a senior C league. Like that's the 50th to or 100th to 50th or even 100th to like 30th or 20th or 10th. That's what you need to shut up. That's what you need to demand out of these coaches. Not that they trained like I don't know. Name every other like prominent NHL that's out there. It doesn't matter if they trained them or not, or if they went to them or not, because let's just take Connor McDavid for instance. A bunch of coaches have testimonials from McDavid. Is it because McDavid got better with them? Maybe, but how much better? Did he go from like bottom of the barrel just starting out skating or just starting out shooting or just starting out stick handling and then become who he is today because of them? No. Like he was already good and then he got a little bit better. That's the same case with, the coaches who like have their laundry list of all these pros. Look at all these pros that I've trained, right? You may very well have trained them, but how much better did they actually get? I will guarantee you the arc is like this. Like very, very steady, like nothing much has happened. I'm actually going to pinpoint Jack Eichel as a prime example. And I'm not going to say the coaches that he trains with. You can figure that out for yourself. But who he's working with, he has not had an increase in scoring since he entered the league. He's still averaging between 25 and 35 goals a year. Oh, but we're supposed to believe that he has great shooting technique and skating technique and all that? Like finally he broke out this year. After not being like, super injured, which helps. But you see the problem there? The people who he's working with are not creating a change in his goal scoring. Maybe a little bit in his point production. Maybe a little bit in his defensive game. But how much? The arc is probably like this. There's very little evidence that it's like this for them. Marty St. Louis' path was like this. Literally. Like very few points to start out with. Undrafted. Like no one wanted him. Now everyone wants him. Like how do you go from literally bottom of the pack to better than everyone else? I'm not interested in people who are already better than everyone else and get a little bit better. That's not the transformation you want either, because you are not in these positions. You are not good if you're watching this video and you're not like trying to get a little bit better. No, you need a drastic change. You need to follow the Marty St. Louis path of being, start out bad, then you get a little bit better. Sorry, not a little bit better. That's the opposite. Then you get a lot better from several changes that you make, several transformations. That's what matters more. That is more interesting to me from a pro and just general athletic perspective, and results oriented perspective too, than anything else. If you do not have coaches, no matter how many pros that they train, creating those results, go find another coach. And by the way, just to circle back on the comparison again, there was a conversation on one of my shorter videos recently as well that came up about like the comparison. Like, I was like, you're not training Matthews or Ovechkin. Like, who are you training? Who's training those guys? Who are you working with them? Because they're like, how did they start out from bottom, like from where they did to where they got? Like, what is that pathway? Were they like just born with it, or did they actually like engineer it? With Matthews, there's actually more evidence that he engineered it with his work with Boris, but I don't know where he got his shot. No one knows where he got his shot. Like, he went through like a whole bunch of other people. Ovechkin story in training, like, who knows? I haven't been able to find much on that. If you know everywhere that he worked, then great. But Boris is one of those coaches. Boris Doroshenko is one of those coaches who is like, he takes players bottom of the barrel and then makes them great. He's going to do that with Jonathan Toews when he gets back into the league. He's doing that. He's helping out, like, what is it, Jake DeBrusk. He helped out Duncan Keith for a while too to have a great last year before he retired. Like, basically, he takes them from bottom of the barrel and then brings them up to be great. That's the transformation you need to look for. That's what happened with Matthews. Like, maybe wasn't a great skater when he started out. How could you when you're living in Arizona and not Canada, where it's hot and you like maybe have very limited ice? He, like, even though Boris is much more experimental than me, he still took a guy who probably shouldn't have made it in Arizona and then made him great. Bottom of the barrel, made him great. That's a transformation you need to look up. Those are the coaches you need to go to. Not someone who just like, look at all the pros that I train. That doesn't matter. You need to look at the results that they have, because if they go with the result path, like, again, that's very small, which is typical, because to circle back on the comparison again, there are several coaches who train several pros who are not scoring at the rate that Ovi and Matthews are. If what they were teaching was working, they would be scoring at their rates, because they're taking people who are like good and then making them legendary. That's the jump that you would need to make, similarly to what happened with St. Louis, right? Bottom of the barrel, made him great. Okay, what's that comparison for someone who's already good? You make them good, then you make them legendary. Is that happening with the players who like make a little bit of change? Again, going back to the Jack Eichel comparison, the people who he's worked with, he has not made a change in goal scoring ever since he started with them. And it's been 10 years. He still has not hit 300 goals in his career. It's the same thing with the other pros as well. In fact, Ovechkin has 489 goals, which is more than all the pros. Like, 489 goals with 3 patterns, which is more than every single pro that's like the same trainer as Jack Eichel has. I'm not going to go to that coach, because he can't create the results that Ovechkin and Matthews have. Matthews just hit 400 recently in 10 years at the same rate as Eichel. Like, 10 years that they've been playing. And he's played less games because he's been hurt. If you want to talk about goal scoring, you look at Matthews, not Eichel. Or anyone else that's there for that matter. Maybe they have one-off seasons, right? Like, there's another coach talking about, like, Hyman's resurgence, but, like, to 55 goals. But that looks like an anomaly. He looks like a 20 to 30 goal scorer now. Like, so you guys got to think about this and look at the transformation here. You need the Marty St. Louis arc. You do not need the Connor McDavid arc. Already good, made a little bit better. If someone were to teach him on his shooting and goal scoring, make him shoot the same way as Ovi, oh man, he would be legendary. He'd be in that same camp. If someone were to teach him his puck protection like Crosby, he would be legendary. Because that's where Sid and Ovi are. They're in the legendary camp. Not that McDavid isn't legendary, but he could be even better if he got his shooting in a good spot. Let's look at Nathan McKinnon. Who did he train with? Are they able to repeat the results there? Like, I haven't looked at it too deeply, But obviously he made a change, like a really significant change. 50 points a year for his like first 4 years, then a 100-point pace, like despite some injury problems along the way, until he finally hit 100 points. Like what was it, 3 years ago? Like something changed there. There was some type of training there that changed. And you can even look at his skill set. He's not striding the same, or not skating the same way that he was when he entered the league. He's not shooting the same way that he was when he entered the league. He changed some things up here and there. He also definitely changed up his mindset because he got a sports psychologist. So like, but is that that's the transformation that you want? Someone who is good and made great. I would say his arc is not the same as a Marty St. Louis, who was like bottom of the barrel still, but that arc is still there. It's still a very good arc, and the people who helped out McKinnon give them a lot of credit. And that's what you need to look for, is those arcs. If you're not in those players' positions, you need to do something different. Right now, there are a lot of coaches who are, like the folks who are coaching Eichel, they're taking him good and making him a little bit better. But again, no significant change from when he entered the league for his like goal scoring to where he is now. So if you're, that's why you should not be sold on any coach who says like, here's the amount of pros that I train. I have my pros, but I don't sell you on the pros that I train. I sell you on the transformation. I sell you on the same Marty St. Louis transformation, that you're going to get that too. Being absolute garbage, bottom of the barrel, and then made great. That's what I care about more than the amount of pros that I make. If I could get like, one player to the NHL from like starting out, bottom of the barrel, that's what I want. I don't want to train like McDavid or Ovechkin or players who are already good unless they come to me asking for, help on some small things. And actually, that's what I did with my KHLer. He had some back issues. I was like, all right, let's go fix them. I'm happy to help you out here. Once we got them fixed, we were like, hey, good luck. And then we'll come back and train each other, because the exercises are what you need at this time as you enter your late 30s. So we're still in contact about that. But do I sell that like I trained the KHLer? No. Is it one of my first reviews? Sure. But I don't like push that to everyone, because it doesn't matter. I would rather make the transformation. I made his back good after it was not making him sleep at night, right? A bad back to a good back, and probably an even better back as time goes on. That's a transformation I care about. Like literally in pain to out of pain. Like you cannot label an arc on that. Like it's gotta, you're literally bottom of the barrel to out of pain. Like, oh, but like, these other coaches train pros who are already good. They make a small adjustment and they make them a little bit better, and that disobeys their development path. It's a small change. Literally, in their career. It's nothing. I don't care about the small change. Sure, small changes make bigger results. That's not what I'm talking about. It's not what's happening. If what their changes were like, truly astronomical, if they got, the 1% a little bit better, and if that were to actually work, they should all be getting as good as the Marty St. Louis arc. And they weren't, because they're right here. It's a small arc. Maybe that's all they need. I don't know. But for players like, just starting out, and what I want to do with changing the entire system, that's not good enough. Because I was down here. I'm bottom of the pack still. I started to go like this. And then I was like, this isn't being taught enough. So I'm going to share that with everyone. I care about this transformation more so than the amount of pros that I train, or the amount of people that I train. That's why I do not want to travel the world and just say like, oh yeah, I traveled to Bolivia or whatever, and I train hockey players for a week. What the fuck does that do for their transformation? I'm going to see them for a week and then fuck off to another country just to be like, oh, come to my camp. No, I don't care about that. I would rather you spend that money to like invest in a full year, which would be actually much more cost effective for you anyway, because now you get a full year of development instead of a 1 week development. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I will still do the camps, and I actually did that like not too long ago because I want to meet people still. Like, we're human beings, we thrive on connection. But for your development, for you to actually get better, you need to like have a very sophisticated plan over a long time. And if you don't, based off of like going to these camps for only a week, and you think that's actually getting you better, happy that you thought it's actually getting you better, but it's not, because it's only a week. You need to cement it like going forward, like for years and years to come. 1 week is not like years. You're probably going to regress back to the old habits that you had. And, well, that's why I sell the full year instead of, just a week. Anyway, this is why you should not trust any pros, or this is why you should not trust any coaches for them, like, because of the amount of pros that they train. It doesn't matter. What matters is, can they make the transformations that you want? If they're not doing that, if they're not getting you to where you want, if they're not creating those results for you, that is exactly why I preach the change in the training system as this. It needs to be, results based. It needs to get you to where you want to go and where you've always dreamed of going. Right now, a lot of it's not doing that. I went through that system. That's why I'm coaching and not, playing. If I had the system I had out now, I'd be playing and not coaching. But we need to create it first. We need more transformations, exactly like Marty St. Louis. We can't have coaching that's based off of these small changes that the pros are already doing. It's not you guys aren't in that position. I'm not in that position. That's why I don't do what the pros do. But it still gets me to their hockey ability level, physical hockey ability level. I don't need to play in a game to show that I have the same hockey ability as them. That's what the standards course is for. It's because I wanted to learn and dive deep into, their actual physical ability, because the physical makes the mental easier. If you don't have the foundation set up, you can't do anything mentally. You can't play the chess game that is hockey, because it takes a massive level of physical ability. If your arms, legs, feet, hips, knees can't move in these weird positions that you end up in, to optimize or give you more options with your stick handling, skating, shooting, your puck control, puck protection, and deception, then you need work, all of which can be measured. If you don't get any coach who doesn't, if you get a coach who doesn't measure anything and just gives you a shit ton of random drills to do, claiming that it gets you better, leave them. No drill will make you better. The drill is not the secret. The transformation and the process is. If you get a whole laundry list of 1,000 drills, leave that coach as well, because you're demanding something specific. You're demanding a very specific change, and you need it scaled off of what the best players do. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to create. So, again, if you don't get any coach who does those things, leave them. And that's the problem with development right now, is because a lot of that, style of coaching or training is out there. That's why you get this NHL organization who could not develop their players. That's how you get these coaches who don't make any specific changes, like that in end results with their players. And that's why you have a discrepancy between like the Ovies and Matthews of the world versus the, I don't know, name every other like shooter or scorer that's out there. Or McDavid skating versus everyone else's skating, right? Like there's a massive discrepancy. If their systems were working, there would be multiple McDavids. There would be multiple Ovechkins. There would be multiple Matthews like out there. And there's not. There's only one of each. That's a problem. Look at the end result. Work your way backwards. See if if they worked with a coach who got good results, great, go with them. If they didn't, if they're not getting the end results that they say, like if we're like, oh, the shooting like some coaches like Ovechkin shoots wrong. Like, excuse me? I said that about Bedard, but I said that he's like what he said about his shot technique was wrong according to what he does in games. I didn't outright say that his technique was wrong. But at the same time, that coach who said that, like he has not created another player who averages 40 to 50 goals a year. Like he hasn't recreated that. And I look at like a result like that and a statement like that as the dumbest statement on the planet, because they cannot recreate those results. And they're basically throwing in the white towel, and it's more accurate for them to say, we don't know what he's doing. But this is an outright lie. That it's like, the greatest goal scorer on the planet has bad technique? Are you fucking kidding me? That is laughable. And that discredits any pro that this coach has trained. If you're saying that the best goal scorer in NHL history and hockey history has bad technique, if any coach says that, you deserve to, like, have no players go to you going forward. You deserve to get trumped by any, like, system, any better system that comes up. You deserve to go out of business. That is embarrassing and a joke and just outright laughable. You're not learning what this guy's doing? Like, are you serious? He is literally, success leaves clues. He's literally exemplifying how to score goals. 3 patterns, score more than half of his goals. One-timer, catch and release, catbird seat. Whoa, but he has bad technique? No, that's the best technique on the planet. It just means you need to shoot more one-timers. You need to score on more catch and releases. You need to score, like, more in the zones right next to the net on both sides instead of crashing directly into the goalie. You stay on both sides of the net and then casually work your way there. That's what he does for half of his goals. 400 is half of what he's done, which is more than all the other pros that this coach has trained. That is a lie that he has bad technique. It needs to be called out. He has the best technique on the planet. We need to learn what he's doing. We need to learn what these other players are doing. We need to learn that the transformation matters more than the pros that, like, these people train, so that we can actually fix the development path, like, and all that problem that's within hockey out here. But people don't see that, and you know, I got to rant about it for half an hour, right? Like, it takes a while for me to explain this and to paint you the picture. As time goes, I'm gonna get better at explaining this more precisely, or in a shortened format, and clean up all my stuff. But no, I can't tell you enough. It's very hard for me to communicate. But I'm glad some of you listen to this and know at least a little bit of what I'm talking about. Because, like, I can't believe I'm saying, I would rather not tell, like, that coaches are lying. But that is just a straight up lie. And they have their foundation, like, for their, like, you know, shooting coaching based off of, like, literally saying that Ovechkin has the bad technique. I'm like, are you kidding me? How does that make any sense? It doesn't. So, for the first time in history, I'm saying that they're lying. That's a straight up fucking lie. And they have their entire business based off of it. Like, what's to say this doesn't happen with any other coach? I don't think that's too extreme. Ovechkin has half of his goals. I underestimated his patterns in my analysis video. I think it's like I got 850 of his goals. Like, I missed the mark by 50 fucking goals. But I don't want to go back through, like, all of that work again. Because that means I'd have to look at every single goal again and get it right. But, like, okay, 489 goals or more, probably more, with 3 fucking patterns. That is more than every other pro that the guys train in his career, for their careers. Jack Eichel being one of them, he has, like, what is it, 289. He's barely cracked 3, he's not even at 300 yet. Austin Matthews has had, like, you know, 400 in the same amount of time that Eichel's played. Someone is scoring better than the other. So you gotta look at them. Look at the people who are better. We can like, admit to us that people are better at things than others. And if we don't, we're lying to ourselves. We're lying to the players who we want to train. We're lying to ourselves in the development and what we want to sell to our players, and just as a business as a whole. It's all a fucking lie. I don't tell the lie. I tell you the fucking truth. The truth is, Ovechkin obviously has the best technique. It's common sense. So model him. That's what I tell you. So, anyway, enough of that rant. We'll cut it off here. Do not trust coaches who just sell you on the amount of pros that they make. Because, again, the development path is just not there right now. As proven by the coach who worked with an NHL team and said that they could not make the results that they have. Because, again, their development system's broken. They only have 5 months to make a change, at best. Like 10 weeks, like, that's nothing. So what happens instead is that they make someone good and make them a little bit better. The development path is like this. When really what you are looking for is this development path, like what happens with Marty St. Louis. And most coaches do not provide that. The coach St. Louis went to was good. The coach Austin Matthews went to is good because they do this. They make a transformation like this. Go to those coaches. Don't go to a coach who says, I got pros, I make them like this. Because it's a short development time span. Sorry, not a short development time span. It's a very small change that results in a very, like, not that much different result.